So we will start by presenting a few verses from the Quran Kareem which establish that Isa alayhi salam will return. The first ayat being in the 6th para. وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا لَيُؤْمِنَنَّ بِهِ قَبْلَ مَوْتِهِ وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ شَهِيدًا. And this verse, the meaning of this verse, is that the people of the book will certainly believe in him before his death, and on the day of judgment he will be against them a witness. Now, by him who is being referred to, so if we look at the context and who is being discussed before this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the verse which I was just talking about, that the Jews, that they say they killed Isa alayhi salam, but they did not crucify him, they did not kill him. Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised him towards himself. بل رفعه الله إليه وكان الله عزيزا حكيما وإن من أهل الكتاب. So straight after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we raised Isa alayhi salam towards ourselves, then he mentions this verse, that there is none from the people of the book except they will believe in Isa alayhi salam. So the context tells us here who is being discussed and who is being referred to, Isa alayhi salam. That none of the people of the book, i.e. the Jews and the Christians, they will certainly believe in Isa alayhi salam before the death of Isa alayhi salam. So the meaning of this verse is that when Isa alayhi salam returns for the second time, when he returns for the second time, all the people, the Jews and the Christians, they will all believe in Isa alayhi salam. Initially, there will be those who will be on the side of Dajjal. They will not believe in Isa alayhi salam, but they will all be destroyed. And after that, there will be a phase where it is you accept Islam or you die. And all the people after this, they will all be believing in Isa alayhi salam. There will only be one religion. This is the meaning of this verse. And in Bukhari Sharif it comes, we will study this narration later on, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he tells us that when Isa alayhi salam returns, he will be this, he will be a adalan muqsitan, he will be a adil, he will be a just person, he will be a just leader, and he will complete these different tasks when he returns. After this, Hazrat Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu mentions that if you wish, then you can recite this verse, وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا لَيُؤْمِنَنَّ بِهِ قَبْلَ مَوْتِهِ. He recites this verse. So we understand that even Hazrat Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu, who is a very great companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he too understood that the meaning of this verse is referring to Isa alayhi salam. In fact, some have suggested that this saying, that if you wish you can read this ayat, is actually the saying of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they have directly attributed this, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying, if you wish you can read this ayat. However, the more correct opinion is that this is the saying of Hazrat Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu, which still is a very big sign in itself that Hazrat Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu, what did he understand? That here him is referring to who? Is referring to Isa alayhi salam. So this verse shows that everybody will believe in Isa alayhi salam. All the Jews and the Christians, they will believe in him before he dies, meaning when he returns for the second time. So this verse shows that Isa alayhi salam will return for a second time. That is the first verse. Number 2, it is mentioned in the 25th Sipara, Surah Zukhruf. وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ فَلَا تَمْتَرُنَّ بِهَا وَاتَّبِعُوا. That indeed he, i.e. Isa alayhi salam, he is a source of knowledge for the final hour. And the meaning of this is very clear, that when Isa alayhi salam returns, everybody will know that the final hour is just round the corner. Because Isa alayhi salam is from the 10 major signs of Qiyamah, and as we have discussed previously, that when the first of these signs occur, then they will, how will they occur? They will occur in quick succession. Each sign will now occur one after another quickly. There will be no pause between them. There will be no long pause. But once they say Isa alayhi salam, and Isa alayhi salam is from those major 10 signs, they will know that the final hour is nigh. It is very close. So this, i.e., he is a source of knowledge. And in one narration, it is read as وَإِنَّهُ لَعَلَمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ, that indeed he is a sign of the final hour. So this also proves that Isa alayhi salam will return. A third Quranic verse, وَيُكَلِّمُ النَّاسَ فِي الْمَهْدِ وَكَهْلًا. This is mentioned in the 6th para, and there is also another similar verse in the 7th para also. Here, what is the meaning of this ayat, this verse? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Isa alayhi salam will talk to the people in the cradle, and he will talk to them in his middle age. When he is in the cradle and also during his middle age. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told this to Maryam alayhi salam before Isa alayhi salam was even born. إذ قالت الملائكة يا مريم إن الله يبشرك بكلمة من اسمه المسيح عيسى ابن مريم وجيها في الدنيا والآخرة ومن المقربين ويكلم الناس في المهد وكهلا ومن الصالحين. So the fact that he talks when he is in the cradle, it is a miracle. Nobody talks when they are an infant, when they have just been born. So this was a miracle. Why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that he will talk when he is at the age of maturity during his middle age? This is not a miracle. Everybody can talk when they are 30, 40 years old, except those, of course, who have some form of disability. Yes, they are an exception. But apart from this, everybody else can talk when they are at the age of maturity, when they are at the age of 30 or 40. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned one miracle, that he will talk when he is in the cradle. Why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned that he will talk when he is at the age of maturity? So the reason for this is because the word kahl that has been used in the Holy Quran, that he will talk when he kahla. The word kahl, what does it mean? Kahl, according to the people of Lughat, wal kahl, in the Ahl al-Lugha, man nahaz al-arba'een, is that person who reaches the age and is close to the age of 40. So kahl means 40. And when Isa alayhi salam was raised to the heavens, how old was he? He was between the age of 30 to 33 years old. The more correct opinion is that he was 33 years old when he was raised to the heavens. Meaning he was not at the age of kahla, he was not at the age of kahl. He was not 40, and some have even said that kahl refers to a person who is at the age of 33. So what it refers to, how is this a miracle that he will talk when he is a middle-aged man, is because this can only occur when he returns back to the earth for a second time, and he will talk at this middle age, when he is at the age of maturity, when he is 33 or when he is 40 years old. This can only occur if he comes back again. So this in itself is also a miracle, that he will talk when he is at the age of maturity. And what did he say when he was an infant? When he was in the cradle, what did he say? It is mentioned in the Holy Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Maryam alayhi salam that when you go with Isa alayhi salam back to your people, tell them, I am fasting, I am not going to talk today. If you want to talk, talk to this baby. فأتت به قومها تحمل قالوا يا مريم لقد جئت شيئا فريا. What have you done, Maryam? Have you fornicated? Where has this child come from? يا أخت هارون ما كان أبوك امرأ سوء وما كانت أمك بغيا فأشارت إليه. Maryam alayhi salam was being slandered, she was being accused. What did she do? She pointed towards this. قالوا كيف نكلم من كان في المهد صبيا. They said, how can we talk to a child? How can we talk to this infant? Then the miracle occurred that Isa alayhi salam, what did he say? He was not at the age where he could talk, but a miracle occurred. He said, قَالَ إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ. He said, the first words that came out of his mouth, he said, indeed, I am the slave of Allah. He did not say that I am God. Nor did he say that I am the son of God. What did he say? He said, indeed, I am the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is recorded in the previous scriptures, If you look at the original scriptures that are hidden from us today, it is mentioned in them. You will find. And the reason I mention this is because when Isa alayhi salam will return and he will talk during this age of maturity, وَيُكَلِّمُ النَّاسَ فِي الْمَهْدِ وَكَهْلًا, what will his words be then? It is mentioned in the books of tafsir that when he returns, he will say, Inni Abdullah. What he said when he was an infant, he will say the same thing when he returns again. He will say, indeed, I am the slave of Allah subhanahu. And he will make it clear as water to them that I am not the son of God, nor am I God himself. No, inni Abdullah, I am the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The beliefs that you had before, they are all false. I am a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this verse 2 also shows, as I have proven, that he will talk during the age of maturity can only be possible if he is to return. So this verse also shows that he will return. And there is a fourth verse as well, which I have not brought here, which is كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ, that every soul shall taste death. And how does this prove that Isa alayhi salam will return? Because Hafid ibn Hajar Asqalani rahmatullah alayhi, he says that one of the wisdoms of the return of Isa alayhi salam is because his time of death is close. His time of death would be near. And that person who has been created from soil, he cannot die anywhere else except on the earth. He has to be buried in the ground. So this also proves that he has to return. He cannot die in Jannah. Jannah is not a place to die. He has to return to the earth and he will be buried on the ground. So that is another verse. And a side note I will give to that for those people who are well studied, and they will know about Idris alayhi salam. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about Idris alayhi salam, وَرَفَعْنَاهُ مَكَانًا عَلِيًّا, that we raised him to a high place, to a lofty place. So in the scholars, they have differed about the meaning of this. Some have taken this literally, that Idris alayhi salam, he was raised to the heavens and he died in the heavens. And some have said, no, this is metaphorical. It means that he was given a high status, or it also means that, if, as we see in the night of Mi'raj, when the Prophet ﷺ met the different prophets, he saw Idris alayhi salam in the fourth. So meaning that is a high place. So his status was raised, metaphorically here. So even Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahmatullah alayhi, he says that it is not established from any sound or authentic hadith that he was physically raised to the heavens alayhi salam. So obviously those that will say, okay, Isa alayhi salam, maybe he raised to the heavens, maybe he will die there, and they will use Idris alayhi salam as an excuse. So that is not exactly a valid excuse to use. As I have mentioned, that first, it's not established that he was physically taken, and number two, he wasn't physically taken, and number two, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned وَرَفَعْنَاهُ مَكَانًا عَلِيًّا. And this maybe is the reason why last week we said, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنِّي مُتَوَفِّيكَ وَرَافِعُكَ. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when mentioned to Isa alayhi salam, I'm going to raise you, he used the word mutawaffika, I am going to take you completely, meaning I am going to take your body and your soul, so that people don't come afterwards and they say that here what it is meant by the raising of Isa alayhi salam is metaphorical, that his status is raised. No, this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used mutawaffika, that I am going to take you completely, body and soul. So nobody would have any excuses or ishkals later on.